this is where we make the mash, but it's actually where, it's a pokey little place, but it's where they made the steam for Fred Archer. So these 3 boxes, we'll look at them in a moment, they were Fred Archer's sweat boxes. We make the mash in the copper here, but in Archer's day it was the steam, and the steam went through there and into the through the chimney here.
And it's still been used?
Yeah, and we still use it. That's the copper for making the linseed mash.
So he was a jockey that struggled with his weight, was that?
Enormously. He went up to 13 stone in these hunting seasons, sometimes.
So that was off season?
Yeah, 13.
13
At one stage he was 13. He was riding an 8-10. And he had this purgative mixture, which would have killed anybody else and killed him in the end. So these 3 boxes here, I can just remember them as they were, and Mr. Waugh turned them into stables.
Right.
And there was one for sweating, one for changing, and one for sitting in. And then we put the horse walkers in the corner here. The trouble is, when you got a nice place, horse walkers look so awful that we really had to do something about it. So we built these buildings round them, and so they are nicely tucked out the way. There is the advantage too that the horses don't see what's going on, so they're not leaping around and crashing around, and so it is.
You wouldn't even think they were there, would you?
No. And the windows open up at 55 degrees, and you've got all the air going up.
Right.
So the idea is that you wouldn't have quite so much disease spreading from one to the other. And this one here, this is what the yearlings walker, and if you want them to walk in quietly, when a yearling arrives here, it probably won't come off the lorry, it won't cross the road, it won't go in the stable, but it will walk up there.
Right.
And that's because you've given it a path to follow. And of course in the wild, you never see them walk across a field, they always go across the path and then branch off, because millions of years of evolution have taught them that if there's not a path, plenty of them have died. If there is a path, plenty of them have lived. So if you give them a path, they basically, they want to go along it. So these are the wooden boxes. They were built by Boone's in 1972, and they're still good boxes. The ventilation isn't as good as it is in the older boxes. The old boys understood really drainage, and they understood air. And this is a filly, Boodley, I'm afraid she's not as good as her purchase price. But these boxes have been well maintained. Mr. Waugh looked after them meticulously. And so, you know, for wooden boxes which are now getting on for 50 years old, they're in very good nick. And we changed the ventilation here. The most we could do was they had a square ceiling, and we rounded it. And according to the boffins in Bristol University, that changes the air change by 3 times. Because if you have it square, the air gets stuck in the corners.
And you're quite a big one for putting the bars across the box doors, you do?
Yes, well, when I came here, we have that yard where they can have their heads out, and we have this yard where they can't. And when I came here, I've been jumping stables, and I thought, oh, I'll saw all those tops off, and they'll have their heads out. And but I became a convert because he had no box walkers, no cribbers, no weavers. They could see what was going on, didn't have their heads out yapping at everybody going by, and they seemed better. So I've split it now. Over there they can have their heads out, and over here they can't, and whatever the horse seems happier with, we go along with. This is the treadmill, which we built, as you see, we built it in 2014, and I picked everybody's brains, really. I went round all the trainers. It's amazing how helpful they are. And I said, what would you do different? And the main thing was getting them in and getting them out. Right. So we tried to make it more welcoming so that the horse can see out the other end. We raised the treadmill up so that the horse was going uphill into it nicely, look out the other side, and it's made all the difference. But it was only thanks to my colleagues. What we do is we teach all the horses to swim as soon as they come as yearlings, and that takes 5 days to get your swimming certificate. And then the next 5 days, we teach them to treadmill. Right. Very, very early, just as soon as they're ridden. And that seems to be a better time to do it, because in the old days I waited till May, teach the big colt to swim, you know. But when you do it, and he's been to the winter, yeah, we do it straight away. Yeah. So he's been to the sales, he's been clipped, he's had long reins around him, he's had somebody ride him, he's been scoped, and you say, go in the pool. And he says, anything you like, just let me go back in my box, anything you like. So he's in a receptive mind, and the same when you teach him to treadmill. Yeah. When you said to him in May, go in the pool, he said, see if you can make me. It was a completely different outlook. So we teach them very, very early. So even when it's really bitterly cold in December, where we teach them to swim. So this is the pool.
So it was one of the first pools
in Newmarket? It was the second pool ever built. It was built in 1992, and it was completely revolutionary because it wasn't straight. I had it going down and then round a turn and tried to make it look to the horse. So when you look down here, it looks to him like a little splish, and we're getting out the other end. He wants to go. This is dark and enclosed. This door swings in behind him, and then this door swings in behind him. And to him, that is just a little splish, and we're going to be fine. And I play a nasty trick on him because it falls away as he goes down, and when he gets to the turn, he's got to be swimming before he sees what happens. So this is without doubt the best way of getting them in and getting them out.
And there's an interesting story behind the rubberising of it, where you acquired it from.
Oh yes, I got a bill, this was in those days, they said an estimate for 7,000 quid for the rubber. So I mean the whole thing had cost not so much more really, so I had a seizure. And anyway, sometimes your luck is in, and there was an advert in Exchange and Mart from Shotton Colliery, which was being closed down by Mrs. Thatcher, I suppose, or whoever it was. Anyway, it's being closed down. And I shot along there, and there was miles of this, which is just made for the job, and it's been here 20 years, and it was for shuttling coal. And so it's just the right width, and the water runs through it. If I'd spent a lifetime, I couldn't have got it better. And it cost 28 quid. And while I was there, I stole a bit of rubber off the sides here. There was a deserted house, and on the stairways, you remember those houses, to save the carpet, they used to put those rubber strips on. I thought that's just right for the brickwork. So for 25 quid, I got all the belting, and then while we were there, we pulled off acres of this rubber and then put it on all around the brickwork. So it was a major raid, you know, everything went fine. We don't go round anymore. Because we've got the treadmill, we just go straight. And this has had 55 horses in it today, including the hacks, and it looks like the River Thames. But we have 2 Olympic-size filters, and by 3:30 it'll be clean enough to hoover. Really? And you see the bottom and you can hoover. But it absolutely goes flat out now. Because the horses, we swim them all as they come in from exercise. So they've got sand all over them, sweat all over them, and swim straight through, out the other side, and scrape them off. I built the pool to get them fitter, and it did not work. It was an enormous expense, did not make them one bit fitter. But it's fantastic for other things. So on a hot day, going racing, we'll swim them 3 straight before we load, so they're cool and dripping. When they come back from racing at night, you know, the horse is just flogged around 9:30 with Morris 2 miles at Nottingham, and he comes back here, and then while you're unloading the lorry, he has his swim, feels like having his food. Geldings, it's fantastic, cleans them off as they swim. So it has a million uses, but not for what I built it for. This is what's going to be the offices, so that when I'm fed up and I retire, the 2 secretaries will go in there. William's office is already here, and there's an owner's room there, mister.
I've seen
Now,
that,
just
yeah.
imagine that, an Amy's room. And then underneath, I was going to have a saddle room, but I don't think William thinks that's a great idea. So at the moment, it's just a useful space.
And what are the arrangements for the owners at the moment?
Well, the Heath house, which is, of course, all formica and lino and things like that, which are out of fashion nowadays. So I think they'll be more
Even
comfortable.
a sofa, perhaps?
I think, yes, I think they'll be more comfortable up there. And just come up, you can have a look. But it's quite a nice building, I think.
Yeah.
And I think in 30 years' time, nobody will believe it wasn't here with the rest of the yard. You get a nice view of the yard. And William's office is here, and it's fantastic because from his office he can see into the main yard.
Yep.
From his window there, he can see into the little yard.
Yep.
And from his window there, he can see up the Heath. So he really has got it, absolutely. It's absolutely marvellous spot.